There we go. Now we have audio. Sorry about that, guys. No audio. Thank you, Dewey. Thank you, Leland, very much. Let me turn this. Let me turn this phone off. Y'all bear with me just a second. Hey, Pete, can you take this phone for me here? Yeah, I always like to start. Thank you. About 5 minutes ahead of time. Make sure we don't have any audio problems. Thumbs up. All right, good. All good. I want to give a big shout out to Dewey Did It over here. If y'all remember Dewey, he's the guy that does the company with the little bolster things. They've got some new ones coming out, by the way. But Dewey's going to help me out with moderating today. I'm figuring we're going to have pretty few viewers pop in here shortly. And I want to give a big shout out to some folks. Hey, Derek. Hey, Brian. Brian made it. Awesome. So let's do a little housekeeping before we actually get started here in 3 minutes with the tech stuff. So we've got some new channel members. I tell you guys, if this is your first time to one of my live videos, I love doing these things. It's been a little while since I've done one, and I know we have several thousands of subscribers that have popped in since I did the last one. And so what I do, as I mentioned, I read all of your questions, and I truly try to answer them all. But I think it might be a good idea if you guys throw a comment up. Let me know what you think. If I see a question where somebody's got an immediate need, of course, I'm going to pound that out real quick and see if I can help you. But if something comes up, I'm thinking maybe on a monthly basis or once every 2 weeks, I can kind of compile a lot of those questions, and we could do, another live, and that way everybody gets their questions answered at one time. It might be a little more efficient that way. But anyway, I want to give a big shout out to Kerry Lewis, one of our channel members. He upgraded to technician. Actually, Kerry was our very first channel member almost a year ago. So thank you, Kerry. Ashley Holgate upgraded to a mechanic as well. And then we've got a lot of new channel members too. Joe Dragonoski, I think that's right. Steve Raymond, Martin Lacey, Kellum Reynolds, Eddie Langford, 57, 63, Spatch, Doug Adamic, I think I said that right, and Martin Fuentes. Guys, thank you a million for supporting the channel. I've had a lot of people message me and ask me what the joining the channel and the membership thing is all about, and basically a lot of it is behind the scenes type stuff. Sometimes I'll just throw up a camera. There's only so much time to do editing on videos and stuff, so I'll throw up a camera, and it could be all kind of behind the scenes stuff, some extra little tech things. Sometimes walking through the shop, I'll have an extra 10 minutes while I'm machining something. I can just throw a camera up and let it play through, and it gives you guys a chance to see all that stuff. Again, it's typically all raw footage, and it's unedited. Sometimes the audio is not that great, but it at least lets you see a little bit about what's going on here. So guys, again, thank you very much for your support. After these past 2 video series, I've been absolutely astounded at the response. I love your comments, you guys that have taken the time and feel I've earned your subscription to hit that, and you sharing it, stuff like that. You guys make this channel possible, and this is becoming an incredible community. I've always enjoyed helping people, and I figure, if I can be a sounding board or source of information for you guys, then I'm all about it. So thanks for your support. So let's see, we are at 2 o'clock. It's time to start doing some tech questions here. So bear with me if something happens and I don't, if you've asked a question, I'm going to try to get to as many of them as I can. If you could, when you type a question, if you'll enter the @ symbol, the little ampersand, and put my name, then it helps me to kind of see, just to see a question there. So let's start at the top. We got Brian in here. Let's see, Glenn Watts from Central PA. Thanks for joining. Drift. All right, let's start with Drift. I think I see the first question here. I like these things because sometimes you guys put me on the spot, and I like being put on the spot. It's awesome. I'm in a bit of a conundrum. Oh, and the other thing, I will always read the question, because not everyone can see the comments if they're watching it on a TV or listening on their cell phone or something like that. So I'll read the questions. Drift asks, I'm in a bit of a conundrum. I have dark lines running vertically down my cylinders, 62 FL, some are as wide as 3/16. It sort of looks like a barcode. When you're saying up and yes, okay, so vertically, I would almost be willing to bet that those may be running in line with the cylinder studs. So, and that's actually not a very uncommon problem with twin cam Evo in M8s and stuff like that. And I've found a solution to that is to actually turn the cylinders, top and base, to make sure they're perfectly parallel. It seems that that area there where the studs are, sometimes it can squeeze a little tighter and make the cylinder a little tighter in that spot. But if you did a leak down cylinder pressure test on that, and you don't have excessive leak down, and the cylinder pressure is balanced between the front and rear, I wouldn't sweat it too much. Let's see. Cross hatching still intact over these. They can't be felt. It's almost like they're some sort of artifact drift. I wouldn't sweat it, man. I'd roll it. I'd roll with it. I'm sure it's probably fine. A little bit of marking here and there, not that big of a deal, as long as it's not creating a leak down issue. Bruce Gillum, good day, old mate. My friend, a friend from down under. Good to see you, and thanks for joining us, sir. Larry Terrell, AR&P in the house. Larry, if you may remember, Larry is one of our Skunk Works Engine Builds customers and channel members. We did a 117 for him and his M8, and he graciously purchased me a hat that has ARNP on it, and that stands for Anal Retentive Impersnickety. So we're in good company with my friend Larry there. Let's see. Glenn Watts asks, when dealerships install a cam chest kit associated with Stage 2 upgrade, is it typical for them to measure pinion run out? I can't answer that in general. I can tell you that it should be. Anytime you open up a cam chest, you should absolutely, without question, check pinion shaft run out, just as a cautionary measure. I can't say if it's typical, but they should. Absolutely should, sir. Gemini again, Alberta, Canada. Good to see you, Gemini. You've been with us for a long time, pal. Thank you. Little Bojo, you're awesome. That's why my membership. You are too kind, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks for supporting the channel. I will be watching for symptoms of sumping on my very own low miles 08. Do we know what percentage 0708 twin cams have excessive crank run out? That's a percentage I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is right in that time, it was an interesting thing to see. On the 2006 models, if I recall correctly, the factory will put certain specifications on what they consider acceptable and not based off of, it's really based off warranty claims. Is the reality of it. So there'll be a maximum or minimum specification for something. And if I recall correctly, in 2007, there were so many cranks that had excessive run out that they actually went from, I think I'm remembering this correctly. It was somewhere they had around a 6 or 8 thousandths allowable for that, and then they changed it to 12 being allowable before it would be a warranty concern. Percentage, I can tell you it was high, but we have to remember, HD built 300,000 bikes a year. We're a shop that people bring problems to, so I see all these problems on a daily basis. So it's hard for me to give you an average on that, man. But great question. Let's see, risks, dangers, and downsides. Let's see, Jake. Pre-owned. Risk, dangers, downsides of purchasing a pre-owned, out-of-warranty 2017 first-year Airmate touring model, and how to prevent problematic bent dipstick. Risk, dangers, and downsides, it's hard to say. We have to remember, Jake, they build a ton of motorcycles. Yes, people had issues, and there are years that there were consistent are known problems. I don't want to say consistent. And did it affect every bike? No. It's almost, I don't want to say throwing darts in the dark, because things can happen. But I do know, like the cylinder issues and stuff with the 17, it was typically, if there was a problem, it was going to happen within the first 2,000 or 3,000 miles. So if I were to buy a 17, I would actually probably be more prone to buy a higher mileage one, just simply because I know it's got some service history and stuff like that. It's a pretty good tip. Hey, Bob, how often would you do a leak down? I every 10,000 miles. It doesn't hurt. It's something that just takes a few minutes to do. It can be a tricky thing to do a leak down on a Harley engine. So if you're doing it on a lift, it's almost like you have to do several things to make sure that engine doesn't budge from TDC. All right, so, I'll strap the wheel to the lift. I'll put it in 5th gear. Then I'll put a strap on the brake lever and kind of strap that down to the engine guard to apply the brake to make sure that engine doesn't move. So it can be a little tough to do a a leak down on one of these things. But if you're doing all that, you should be able to get accurate, consistent numbers. Maybe do it every 10,000 miles. That's excessive, yes, but as Larry says on my hat, I'm ARNP. Roy, Kevin, love your videos. Very instructional. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. Let's see. Leland, I'll be watching for symptoms of something on my very low miles 08. Do we know what? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I just repeated that one. If you're interested in the symptoms of something, if you watch the video I just put up yesterday, the real short 8-minute one, I go over all those symptoms. And if you pay attention to those, that'll tell you if you're something. So, Ron Coburn, on a fresh build, do you use regular oil or synthetic? I actually use synthetic on a fresh build. Understand a lot of that too has to do with piston ring manufacturer, how they what they specify on RA RMS finish inside the bore, also the angle of the crosshatch. Each ring manufacturer can be a little different. So let me explain that for a second. So I mentioned RA RMS finishes. So when you're looking at crosshatches on the bore, the purpose of the crosshatches are to actually hold a certain amount of oil to lubricate the piston. If it holds too much, you burn oil. If it doesn't hold enough, then you have scoring problems and oil starvation. So depending on the ring material, ring manufacturer, the type of piston it is, you have to look at those crosshatches similar to sound waves. There's a certain frequency, there's a certain depth, there's a certain width. And then of course the angle of those, and each are specified differently. So there's a lot more to properly boring and honing a cylinder than just dropping a hone in the thing. You actually scan the surface and make sure it's right. But that's kind of high-end tech race stuff that we do on our Skunk Works engines. But anyway, touching Harley first time that's been sitting. What's some things to look for? Zach, that's a good question. One of the things you want to pull the plugs and see if you can buy bore scopes now pretty cheap. Pull the plugs, look down in there, and see if there's any rust on the cylinder walls. Because you can turn one over for the first time and actually break a ring if there's a lot of rust in there. If there is, then there's a spray product, fogging oil. You'll typically see it in marine stores. So you can spray a little fogging oil in there. You can, spritz some Marble Mystery oil, something like that to lubricate the cylinders before you actually fire the thing up, expect it to smoke. You want to make sure you've got fresh gas in it. If it's a carbureted bike, even an injected bike, you could have some fuel contamination, especially if it was stored with ethanol fuels. So that's a consideration. And check the basic things. Check brake fluid should really be flushed every 2 years, regardless on how much the bike is ridden. So you got to go through all your safety checkpoints and things. And then from that point, going through your safety checkpoints and stuff. And then from there, it's not uncommon after a bike's been ridden for a long time for you to start developing some leaks. So, if you go out and you put, 100 miles on it and you see a leak, I wouldn't rush to fix that leak unless it's just a real easy one to get to. I would wait and put, 1,000, 2,000 miles on it and try to get an idea of where any other leaks may be coming from just to save yourself from duplicating some work. So I think that's a good idea there. So let's see what else we got. Kevin, it's in 3 parts because of its limits. I'm not sure. Let's see. It was in the last one. We put it back together. I'll have to come back to that drift. Let me see what we got here. I'm not sure which one we're referencing there. Oh, okay. I see. Your 3 parts of your engine there. Sorry about that. Yeah, if you can't feel it with your thumb and you can still see the crosshatch, man, I'd roll with those. I would roll with those cylinders. Salty Dog, thank you so much. Salty Dog threw us a super chat, sir. Thank you very much for your support. I appreciate that. Let's see, how often would you do? Don't get up at 4:45 a.m. for just anyone. That's right, Bruce. It is 4:45 a.m. over in the land of Oz. Thank you very much. I get an early start to your day, though. Art, do I need to reprogram my 2020 Road Glide Limited? If you could leave me a comment in there and let me know under what situation. I mean, if you haven't made any modifications to the bike, most of the time, I'm not sure where you live, fuel octane availability, stuff like that. If you've made no modifications, you can pretty much roll with it and not do anything. But let's see. Kevin from Patrick Stevens. Do you think factory primary chain automatic tensioners cause crankshaft run out to increase by running too tight? That's a great question. I don't. I don't think that it in itself could cause an increase in crankshaft runout. It does take either crank runout either comes from during the original manufacturing process, or typically, I mean, unless they're just made bad. A crank can twist this way, a crank can move this way as the crank pin wears. There's a lot of forces. If you are one of those that does a lot of excessive engine braking, that can, you have opposing forces on either side. So there's a lot of things go on. I can't say that an automatic primary chain tensioner could do that. My problem with those, as you saw in that last video, is that they do ratchet up so tight. So what it can do over time, of course, is main drive gear bearings and transmissions. If it ratchets up too tight for too long, you start hearing that sucker whirring. That was a common thing. So I would say I get rid of the automatic ones for the purpose of saving main drive gears, bearings, and sprocket shaft bearings on the crank. Plus, it makes it a heck of a lot easier to find neutral and shift through the gears and less clunking and things like that. So, great question, sir. Little Mojo, sometimes when I come to a stop, she stalls. Also, every once in a while, she'll backfire through the throttle body. IC, it's an 06. A few things to look at that. The idle air control motors do wear. It's an 06. She's got some time on it. Idle air control motors get weak. The pintle on the end of the IC control motor, it spins in and out. It's a stepper motor. So you have the hole in the throttle body, the port that it goes down to, the pintle, little sharp edge on it, and it spins as it goes in and out of that port like that. All right, and then of course every time you turn the switch off, you turn the bike back on, that pintle will go from roughly 40-50 steps at idle, give or take, sometimes 20 or 30. That sucker will shoot up to 130. All right, so I'm going to show you or tell you a little trick that you can try to reset the IAC. That's the pintle condition is one, the condition of the contact area inside the throttle body is another, but also, and of course the operation of it itself. Throttle position sensors do wear. It's a rheostat. That can be a concern too. Take a look for intake leaks, that sort of basic stuff. But a little trick you could try to reset your IAC. If you put your ear next down to the IAC motor, make sure your stop run switch is on run, turn the switch on, and you'll hear the IAC motor. So you turn run, then turn your main switch off, on, off, on, off. Each time you do that, you'll hear the IAC motor. Basically it's starting at roughly 40-50 steps, and each time you turn that switch off, that thing opens up like this and pulls itself all the way back in and kind of resets it. So try that and see if that will help you with the issue. Let's see. Excuse me. Kevin, I'll ring it and run it. Thanks. There you go, Drift. Ring it and run it, man. Jeff McDonald, love the channel. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. J.E., which primary chain tensioner will you be pairing with the Dark Horse comp? I recall from the podcast the Dark Horse dudes mentioned they did RD with the stock auto tensioner. Okay. Good question, sir. So on the twin cam, they offer a 32 and a 34 tooth for the twin cam, and currently only a 34 tooth for the M8. So on the 32 tooth, when you run that one, you have to use an adapter shoe that on the factory automatic primary chain tensioner for the chain to be able to work. Now, and I guess it's manufacturing tolerances and stuff like that. Some guys have run the Hayden one. Some guys have run the one from Southern Oregon Hot Bikes, those two automatics, and then the Baker manuals. And some have been able to, get them to work and get enough slack out of the chain. Others have said it doesn't quite adjust up enough. And I think that has to do with tolerances on the primary and the condition of their chain. So if somebody's got a higher mileage chain, obviously it's stretched a bit, and that manual tensioner may not be enough to get it up in there. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So the ones from Southern Oregon Hot Bikes, I've known those guys for years and years and years. If that's a great little piece. We run the Baker manual ones on a fairly regular basis and have pretty good luck with that. So hope that helps. Let's see, where are we at? Kevin, can you talk about? Oh, we got a lot of comments here, guys. Bear with me just a second. Let's see where we're at. I got to scroll way up. All right, here we go. G-Dub, can you talk about the 06 Dyna primary issue? Heard they forgot to put locating pins between the inner primary and trans. What fails and what's the best fix option? How to tell it's going bad? I got to admit, G-Dub, I don't recall that one. Locating pins between the inner primary and the trans. You know, actually, I've pulled a lot of inner primaries that were on completely stock bikes. I've pulled a lot of them, and there weren't any locating pins in there, so that really doesn't surprise me. I've put pins in there. I don't know if it's missing the dowel holes or not. I'm not sure, man. I'd have to look into that. Hey, Headspace, welcome. Glad you joined us. Let's see. Little Mojo. I also get a primary clunk at shutdown. Thinking compensator on an 0688 twin cam. Is there an upgrade or stock replacement? Okay, great question, little Mo. For two reasons. One, if you're getting a heavy clunk at shutdown, more than likely it is a compensator. The reason that you don't see aftermarket companies rushing to make compensators for 2006 and back models is because those compensators were good. The stock design was good. The stock cranks were better. So the stock crank didn't beat up the compensator. So, a stock replacement or, an aftermarket replacement that, you can get like Drag Specialties or something like that. I think Baker sells one too. Just a stock style is perfectly fine on the 06 and back stuff. I have built some monster engines using stock compensators on 06 and back bikes. So that's the reason why. But yeah, I think that's probably your clunk. Another way you can tell, put the bike in first gear with it not running. But just put the bike in first gear, stand it up, and rock the bike back and forth. If the spring pack's weak, you'll hear it in there going clunk, clunk, clunk inside the primary. So that's another good way to test that. Clayton Bryant, can a crankcase plug screw and cover the scavenge port if it's torqued correctly? I believe you're talking about the plug that's in the bottom of the crankcase. Yeah, they're supposed to have red Loctite on them from the factory. I pulled a lot of them out that don't have Loctite on them. But if you heat that area up a little bit with a torch, nothing too crazy, you can back that out pretty safely, not have any issues, and then put it back in. And there's really no torque on that. So it's a pipe plug, basically. Let's see. Carrie, my friend asked me to do a 3-hole fluid change on his 2018 Limited. I noticed that the level in his transmission is on the low side, and I'm worried he has transferred in the primary. More than likely, yes, he has. If you pop the derby cover off, Carrie, the oil should not be any higher than the bottom of the pressure plate. If you look down in there, see the pressure plate on the clutch. You look down in there, if it's any higher than that, more than likely he's transferred it. You're looking at roughly 32 ounces in the primary. Drain it out, measure it. More than likely it's done. He just needs to vent the primary. So, yes, sir, you're absolutely right. Vice Grip, what are your thoughts on the Screaming Eagle hydraulic cam plate? That part has went through actually some interesting versions over the years. And one thing, if you are new to my live streams, I will tell you, I will always differentiate between fact and opinion. If I have an opinion, I will tell you it's my opinion. So there's a difference. So back in the early days, I remember when that Screaming Eagle one first came out, it was actually anodized black. And it was a fantastic cam plate. It really was. I used a bunch of them, and I never had any issues with them. And as some of the other aftermarket manufacturers began to improve their cam plates as they got better and better, I migrated to those, and I know there have been some changes with the Screaming Eagle one. I'm not sure who's 100% certain who's manufacturing it now. I have not heard of any consistent problems with the Screaming Eagle hydraulic cam plate. Okay, I haven't heard of any, so I can't tell you. My opinion would be I can't tell you that it's a bad piece. I'm not aware of any consistent issues. It's not an item, I guess, that I would prefer to use, only because there's for example, like S&S, fueling, those particular cam plates. When a person's upgrading cams and doing things like that when they get in there, there is a considerable cost savings that you have when you're purchasing complete kits. Okay, so if there's a certain cam that's available or whatever in a complete kit, and it happens to be that, say, an S&S cam is the right cam for their application, I would be more likely to run an S&S cam plate because I can sell that customer the entire kit. That would in the end save them a lot of money on parts. So it's a lot of reasons sometimes why I choose one over the other, not almost necessarily because I say one is better than the other. So I can't tell you an SE cam plate is bad. I really can't. All right, let's see. Where are we at? I'm really glad. Paul, so you're really glad you caught the live stream. You're welcome, Paul. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for the kind words. Don't know my run out, but there aren't marks on the inner primary. Think I might be okay when went to Baker primary tensioner. Now, David, the fact that there aren't marks on the primary is not an indication that you don't have crank run out. Okay. There's two reasons. There's crank run out on both sides. There's two different ways you do it. Of course, you have what I would call main bearing or main crank run out, which you're measuring run out from the bearing surfaces themselves on the inboard side of the crank. Then you have pinion shaft run out, which is the shaft that sticks out to the oil pump. All right, that's a critical one because that's what determines gear drive and all that. So a crank can be perfectly straight down the middle looking at the bearings, but the pinion shaft can have a curve to it. All right, so but also the crank can be scissored, which would create run out on that side and on the sprocket shaft side. So there's multiple specs that we got to look at for crank, and people are just real quick to go run out. Well, they're kind of different things. The other is total indicated run out when you're combining the left and right, the total wobble of that crank there. So the fact that it's a good sign that you don't have those marks, but it's also difficult to measure sprocket shaft run out because of the splines. There's a way that it can be done, but that it is a good sign, yes. But I wouldn't let that be a substitution for knowing what your crank run out is, especially on your pinion shaft side. Let's see. Carrie asks, which fluids do you recommend and fix if you know of one? Which fluids? I love AMSOIL. I do. It's not because I don't care who makes stuff. That's the thing. You guys will learn, if you're new to the channel, you'll learn this about me quick. I don't care who makes it. I'm not going to say I'm brand loyal at all. If a company makes a good part, then I'm going to evaluate that part. I'm going to check it out. And if it really does what it says it's going to do, I'm going to use it. I don't care who makes it. All right. And AMSOIL, from what I see over the years, not just because I love their logo or something, I see the engines that get tore down that have been running it. Not just, I've seen it in cars. I've seen it in generators and pressure washers and all these other things. So I get to see it. And, it's a great product. So what I typically will run is the AMSOIL MCV 2050 in the engine. If it's an aftermarket clutch, just about everybody is a Type F regular old automatic transmission fluid. Transmission, it depends on the use and type of transmission, how much power it's making. If it's a relatively new bike and someone likes a real crisp shift to the transmission, I'll run 2050 in that as well. If they want a little softer shift or it's making more power, I've changed the transmission, I'll run an 80/90 severe gear. If it's a heavy use one, I'll run like a 91/40. So Dale is a new member, everybody. Welcome, Dale. Dale, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you joining the channel. Amen. I got rear-ended yesterday, Brave. Flathead, man, glad you're okay and you're here. That's what matters. I'm sure hopefully the bike didn't fare too badly, but glad you're walking, man. Good to hear it. Good grief. If I change my air cleaner and mufflers, Art, I think you would need to do something. You understand these bikes come out of the factory and they're relatively lean. They're designed, they're EPA compliant. When you change your air cleaner and you change a muffler, then you are changing the air dynamics of that engine. It's taking in a little more air and it's breathing out a little more air. Now, I say that in general. Okay, a lot of that depends on where you live, fuel octane availability, and things like that. I would at least, I'm assuming you want this bike to live for a long time. It's worth it to at least have someone, if you have not removed the catalytic converters, most of the time you're probably going to be okay and not have to do any tuning. A big part of changing air cleaner and mufflers is also to cool the bike down. You really shouldn't tune a bike on top of a catalytic converter. It can make it run hotter. So if you've removed the cat, I would say absolutely you need to have some tuning done. If you have not removed the cat, it's worth it. I mean, that's an expensive motorcycle, man. So at least have somebody, run it on a dyno or put a sniffer in it, or use an auto tune sniffer from Power Vision, or some way that you can at least check your air fuel ratios and know. There's no substitute for knowing. If your air fuel ratios are safe, run with it. It's fine. Let's see, Paul C. I'm putting a 124 twin cam in my 2004 dyno since I have it tore down. Should I replace the OEM alternator and regulator with Cycle Electric ones for peace of mind? Thanks, Paul. I have been using Cycle Electric's products as long as I've been doing this stuff, 25 years plus. I have never, and I'm also, you'll notice, I'm also not one to do product plugs. That's not my style. But if something's good, by God, it's good. I have never once in my history of installing Cycle Electric products have I ever had a failure or a defective part from those guys. Not one single time. And I have done more charging systems than I can count. So if I were to do a charging system, guys, there's no question. Cycle Electric is a slam dunk. If yours is fine, that's up to you. But I would definitely use Cycle Electrics. Do you know if crank run out on 20 hours CV10 was better than a 103? Gemini, it's really a toss-up, my friend. It's hard to say. It was kind of across the board to a large degree. The CVO cranks were pretty much to a large degree the same cranks. Regular, it was a 4 3/8 stroke crank, so they could have had the issue either way. Hard to say. Evo Softail, is there anything special to check for? From Kenneth. Not really. Evos are great platforms. There's nothing that stands out in my mind. Of course, I don't know what year it is or anything like that, but just look at fit, form, function, and safety. Those are the things you need to look at. Does the bike fit you? And how well it functions and how safe the bike is. Those are the things that matter, really. Harley Dave, just rebuilt my O2 twin cam with a complete fueling cam chest and finding my oil tank completely empty within a few days until I start the bike and then it all comes back. Is this normal? Is that O2 twin cam a Softail or is it a touring bike or Dyna, Dave? I don't remember you telling me. That is one, Dave there brings up a good point. I understand that. And this, I want to jump on this too, because one person had mentioned when I did the twin cam teardown on that FL engine that all the oil that was in the bottom of the crankcase was because it sumped from sitting. It doesn't work that way. If you have a Softail, if you have a Sportster, your oil tank is above the oil pump. So, and this was common on Evos and stuff too. If your oil tank is above the oil pump, over time, what can happen is that oil will actually leach past the oil pump and then can drain into the crankcase. On FL models, that doesn't happen because the oil tank is underneath the transmission and lower than the pump, right? So a lot of people will check the oil levels in their Softail and their Sportsters after it's been sitting for a few days. They find it a little low. They dump a half a quart in it, put the oil caps back on it. You fire it up and they blow oil everywhere. They blow oil out the sump or out of the breathers or something like that. And it's because it's now overfilled with oil. So it's always best on Softails and Sportsters to check the oil when you get back from your ride, because that's going to be the most accurate oil level. Hope that helps. Let's see. 18 CVO Road Glide with a 117, 10,000 miles, no issues so far, but how long should I go before I need to start thinking about oil pump and cam plate? It's hard to say. Roy, I have seen some of these bikes last 100,000 miles, 100, and people never have a problem with them. So that's tough to say. I would say look at the characteristics that I mentioned in the video that I put up, and look at the characteristics of sumping. You know, in that little short 8-minute video I did there. If you start to notice oil consumption, if your oil pressure starts jumping all over the place, you start noticing more oil coming out of the breathers, if you feel a loss in power, engine temperature goes up, fuel economy goes down, all those things are signs of cam plate and oil pump problems. So that's the best way I know to tell you without actually tearing it down and physically looking at it. Isaac, little late, buddy. Better late than never. Glad you joined us, pal. Good to see you. Let's see, Jake S. Jake S. In your shop, are the homemade wooden table bike lifts a fixed or adjustable height? You build those yourself, so can you tell us more about them? That's a pretty cool little question there. Yes, I made those myself. When you're doing a full motorcycle fabrication, the way I have my shop set up, and maybe we could do a shop tour. Maybe that's the next video in a few days or something. We can give a shop tour or something like that. If you'd like that, you guys throw me a thumbs up. I made those. It's about $120 worth of materials from Home Depot, and they've got really nice casters underneath them. And the way my shop is set up is in different areas. So I have what I call a dirty grinding area. Then I have the machine shop area where you make the chips, and then I have a small sheet metal fabrication area. And a lot of times when you're completely custom fabricating a bike like that, I may have to mill apart and then work on some sheet metal and then do some welding and then do some grinding. So those tables, you build everything on those tables, and it allows you to just roll the bike around to whatever station you need, and it makes it a lot easier. And the way you take on and off and no, they're not an adjustable height, they're fixed. So the way you take them up and down, you just roll it to the edge of a lift, strap it to the lift, or raise the lift up, roll the bike to the lift, drop it down, drop it back up. So it's a real easy way to move bikes around in the shop. So neat question there, man. Glad you noticed those little things. What's the best year for the 96 6-speed? You mentioned a certain year, and this is coming from St. McKenna, I believe that is. A certain year moved the bronze bushing from the rods and cam plate. Yes, that was in 2011. You saw the bronze bushing came out of the crank. You saw that the bushing also came out of the cam plate. It's hard to say what really a best year for the 96 was. I would have to almost point to 2010, maybe 2010 and later. 9 was a little better than 8. 8 was better than 7. So, man, that's a tough question to answer, but good question there. Hey, Chris Caswell, glad you made it. Stephen, love your videos. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, sir, very much. The chief engineer, how much power can a stock... Oh, guys, hang on a minute. I just lost it. Guys, we got questions coming in like crazy. Freedom Ride, thanks everything. Bike is a beast. That's our man there. Where did your question go, sir? I'm trying to find it. Chief engineer, here we go. How much power can a stock clutch take? I'm building a 107 TC with heads, cams. Man, I tell you, 110, 115 foot-pounds at the absolute most. But if you're aggressive with it, the stock clutch won't hold up to that. I'd say if you're getting any more than 100 foot-pounds, you'll need a clutch. A lot of that depends on your right hand. Let's see. Jason. Sorry, guys, trying to scroll. Got a ton of questions. I hope we're doing good so far. Jason Brandon, got an 09 HD Street Glide with 96 to 117 build. Has chatter at 1800 to 200 on the rear cylinder exhaust side. Could it be a bad lifter? That's tough to say, man. Could be piston slap too. Take a screwdriver, hold it up to your head, and use the other end of the screwdriver, point at some engine parts. That may help you narrow it down. One idea to think about, if the clatter or if the chatter that you're hearing there is worse when it's cold, gets better when it warms up, that's a good indication you may have a little piston slap too. So that's something to think about. All right, so Brian Norwell, let's talk. You said 12% leak down on my 114 with 3,000 miles was suspect. I decided to take care of this. Do factory 117 barrels have thicker liners compared to boring my 114 and 117? Brian, I got to tell you, man, I'm not using any. I'm not boring at this point. I'm not boring and honing any factory barrels at this point. I think there needs to be a couple more years, and I want to cut a few more of those castings open before I bore them and hone them. So that's just I only want to do stuff once, man. I know there's guys out there doing it, and they're builders that'll tell you there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and for them it may be, but I have choices that I have to make with what I'm confident in the builds that I do for people, and that's just simply the choice that I make. Not saying that other people are wrong; it's just my choice. Let's call it a little bit of insurance, I guess. Rainstorm Consulting, thank you very much for supporting the channel. Love the channel. Thanks for all your help. Thank you. Thank you very much. First time I caught you live. I'm a big fan. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Stephen Cahill, thank you, sir. Let's see. Art, do I need to... Okay, I think we've done that one already. Larry Terrell, when you built my engine, you had to tune it. After the installation of the Olin suspension, I think you had to tune it as well. You have to tune it as well. Thoughts? I'd have to think about that, Larry. I tune it after the installation. I think you have to tune it as well. Thoughts? You know, I think we just tweaked it a little bit, Larry. I'm sorry. I think we just tweaked it a little. That's that ARNP thing we've got going on there. Let's see. Tune the bike. Not trying to speak for the master camera. Harley Dave, thanks for answering that question for me, bud. Harley Dave is exactly correct, Art, with how he answered your question. I'm going for a ride. Can the case breathers be improved on an M8 apart from adding a dipstick breather? I say an SS pump's better in standard form previous versions. It really doesn't matter how it's being done. Back in the day on old twin cams, when I was building big engines, 200 plus, 300 plus horsepower stuff, I would actually run PCV valves in the rocker boxes and vent the rocker boxes as well, because those things would tack up to unbelievable RPMs incredibly quickly. So the more you can make them breathe, the better. Let's see. My Harley, how do you feel about Baker comps for the 08? The Baker compensators are good pieces. I like the dark horse ones too. I would say that I personally am favoring the dark horse ones. I like what they do. I like what I've seen. I like it's a really fine piece. But I've been doing business with Bert and the guys over at Baker for almost since the beginning. So and they make a good product. They put a lot of R&D in their stuff too. So if you choose Baker, I don't think you can really go wrong there. Joe asks, what are your thoughts on Screaming Eagle Super Tuner? Have high flow intake and exhaust, looking to have the cams placed, looking around too. Just starting my membership. Great videos, Joe. Again, thank you for supporting the channel. I'm assuming the Screaming Eagle Super Tuner, you're referring to the not the original race tuner that TTS Master Tune used to make. I believe the Super Tuner you're referring to is going to be the one that Kent Moore started making for Harley in 2008. That was in place until they yanked all the Super Tuners. It would be the orange one or the black one with the little button on it. There's nothing wrong with the Super Tuners. They work great. There's bells and whistles between each of the flash tuning systems, Power Visions and TTSs, Direct Link, the race tuners. For most people out there, there's no need, if you have one of the older style race tuners like that, Super Tuners, there's no need to rush out and buy a new tuner. That's just find somebody that can tune with that one, because for the most part, they do the same thing if you don't have a real extravagant build. There's some bells and whistles, but again, they basically all pretty much do about the same thing. Let's see if change intake seals. Chris Caswell, back at the beginning part of the video, I had talked about idle air control motors and throttle position sensors. I believe you've got the exact same issue there. So take a look at resetting your IEC, possibly replacing the IEC, inspect the panel. Little Mojo, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The IC, but should throw a code. No, sir. Not at all. You can have a bad IAC motor and it not throw a code. About the only time you will see a code from the IAC if it's an electrical problem, either low voltage, high voltage, open, short, that sort of thing. It can be bad and stuck and not throw a code. So that's actually relatively common problem. Art Esper asks, DK Custom said that you can change the air cleaner and mufflers without reprogramming. That is possible, provided you have kept the catalytic converter in the head pipe. If the catalytic converter is removed, that is a free-flowing, tremendous amount of air now free-flowing through the exhaust. I'm not going to speak for them. If they want to recommend that, fine. But I'm going to tell you, if you're keeping the cat, you may be okay. If you're removing the cat, I don't think that would be a good idea, personally. I would not recommend that. Let's see. Ronald, you're saying M8, you don't need to reprogram the ECM for stage 1. What's your recommendation? Same thing. It depends on whether the cat is there or the cat is not. Understand, again, guys, got to remember, there's a ton of debate on this deal. Bikes come out of the factory with a map in it designed for everywhere. Different living conditions, different fuel qualities, different altitudes, different temperatures, all that has an effect on the bike. All right. Now, some people define a stage 1 differently. All right. If you're changing a muffler and an air cleaner, it depends on the condition of that specific motorcycle. You have to remember, injectors can have as much as a 20% variance in flow rates. You can take 2 identical motorcycles off a showroom floor, measure air fuel ratios on this one, air fuel ratios on this one, and they can be different. Okay, I'm not going to say that you have to tune your bike if the cats are in it and the air cleaner is changed and the muffler is changed. I'm not going to tell you that. What I'm telling you is my suggestion would be. It's a $20, $30 plus $1,000 motorcycle. It's a couple $100 to at least have somebody just sniff the thing and see if it's safe. Okay, that would be my best recommendation on that. Let's see. Kevin McCartney, great name, Kevin. Welcome. Thank you for joining the channel, sir. I appreciate it very much. 2019, or screaming, clanking noise, motor torn down. This is coming from Kelly Abney. And told internal oil line clog, warranty replacing the entire engine. Have you seen this in other M8s or stage 4 builds? Yes, sir. That's an easy answer. I have seen that. What's your opinion on compression release cams? It depends on if the build you have or you already have automatic compression releases. A lot of bikes started coming with automatic compression releases in them. In that event, you don't really need compression release cams. If you're running, it depends a lot on cylinder pressure too. So if you're running, 190, 200 pound cylinder pressure, give or take, you got to have some kind of compression release. If you already have automatic compression releases, I don't see the need to duplicate that with a compression release cam. On some ultra performance engines, you don't always need compression releases at all. Depends on the cam profile. And sometimes having compression releases on the cams, in addition to automatic compression releases in the heads, I will actually install momentary switches to deactivate the compression releases in the heads to help the bike start easier. It's kind of a complex answer on compression releases and the engine being able to start, how many times it turns over. So that's another thing. Let's see. The Screaming Eagle cam plate had to fix a leaky pressure relief valve and set correct oil pressure. I would buy an S&S better product. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Let's see where we're at. Do you think causes of cylinder-based gaskets? Dictum factum. I like that. What do you think causes cylinder-based gasket leaks on Evos? Remedies? Cylinder-based, the cylinder sealing surface and also the deck surface of the case. Not uncommon on those at all. A lot of times that can be fixed. It's sometimes a little more complicated. You have to deck the case to get it perfectly flat. But anytime an Evo cylinder is bored and honed, someone should be taking that cylinder and, either on a grinding plate, or you can do it on a lathe, you can turn it. But it's a good idea to lap the base of an Evo cylinder. And, the way I do it, I have, different grits and things, and I can set the cylinder down in there and just do it by hand, get that surface perfectly flat. If you do that, with your base gasket and then use an aviation non-hardening sealant. Then put that on each side of the gasket. That'll girl seal up great and never leak. Let's see where we're at. I'm new to Harley Davidson. Purchased my minister. I haven't noticed clutch slipping, 5th, 6th gear. Spec plates need replacement paper. Okay, that's a good question. Motoboy832. Let's help him out since he's new to Harley Davidson. Welcome to the world, sir. Purchased a 2011 Street Glide in August. Have noticed clutch slipping in 5th and 6th gear. Suspect that the plates need replaced. Any specific brand to lean towards? A couple things you need to look at on that. So it's actually a deeper question than you think. You could have a transmission problem. Not to scare you, but that's a possibility. All right. It's unusual that you would slip in 5th and 6th gear and not 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, or in the earlier, in the lower gears. It could just be clutch. One of the easiest ways for you to know is just to pop off the derby cover and smell in there. If it smells burnt, yeah, you probably have a slipping clutch. If it doesn't smell burnt, then there's a possibility you may have a transmission issue there. But it could also be as simple as clutch adjustment. Make sure the push rod's adjusted properly. If you're running a cable drive clutch, make sure it's adjusted properly. Make sure the cable's adjusted properly. Go for there. Any specific brand to lean towards? I'm a huge fan of the American Prime clutches. We've got them on our website. I like them because they keep the diaphragm spring. That's another one of those products that I've never had a warranty issue with. If you ever need to replace the plates, they're inexpensive to replace just the plates and the discs. So that's a good choice there. But and then you're also at the same time you're upgrading the center clutch hub as well. You press out your stock one, put theirs in, and that's a nice little upgrade. Should you decide to add more power later, you've got a great clutch that'll handle a hot rod. Robert White just started watching. Thank you, sir. Welcome. Warren Miller, is there an acceptable oil consumption on a stock 107? Man, I hear that a lot. Unfortunately, I'm hearing people getting the normal, and what I'm being told that's normal is about 1.5 to 2 quarts. 1.5 to 2 quarts every 25, or 1.5 quarts every 2,000 miles is kind of what I've heard people say they're being told is normal. Normal may be normal, man, but it doesn't mean normal is right. That's a lot of oil consumption. More than likely, I would say your oil consumption may be coming from a bit of sumping. If you take your air cleaner off, look down inside the throttle body, see if it's coated with oil. It seems kind of be nature of the beast here lately with those things. All right, let's see what we got. Michael Miller, thanks. This one's quick. Mike Miller wants me to talk about the Dark Horse cranks. Mike, if you don't mind, if you would go back, I did 2 hours worth of videos with John Dahmer up at Dark Horse Crankworks. He actually came to my shop, and we talked about all kind of stuff crankshaft related. So if you'll check out those 2 videos, that'll take care of you there. Flathead true about Cycle Electric. Yep, best in the business, no question. Sky Dude, is it safe to use an impact wrench and loosen the comp bolt and clutch nut? That's a good question. I actually had somebody bring that up when you saw me disassemble the engine. A couple of different things on that. I wouldn't have went straight to an impact on those if I wasn't going to be replacing those parts anyway. All right, so that's a big thing to think about. Sometimes I've seen people even use green Loctite on those bolts. And when you've got a bar, massive bar this long, and you're trying to use a primary locking tool to lock that, and you're having to, again, I've seen people, a 2-foot pull handle or breaker bar with a pole on the end of it trying to break those things loose. And sometimes, man, you're almost doing more damage by putting that much force on the primary and the clutch basket and all those little pieces with the breaker bars and all that stuff. So sometimes it's necessary to bump them with an impact. And you'll notice when I use the impact there, especially on the clutch, it was in neutral. The primary chain wasn't on it, and the basket was free spinning. All right, so you heard me bumping it, and it wasn't banging any gears. You didn't hear anything banging inside there. So sometimes just the technique with the tool can make the difference. So let's see. Bob, can you touch on neutral knock? I've talked to a lot of mechanics, and many of them don't know what I'm talking about and say they have never heard of it. I'm working on a Baker Grudge box. Great question, sir. Actually, I'm going to touch on that. On the dark horse compensator, a lot of people have installed the dark horse compensator and blame the compensator on a little bit of a knocking noise that developed after they installed it. It ain't the compensator. It is neutral knock. Back in 2011, Harley Davidson had so many people complaining about neutral knock. And what neutral knock is literally that. You put the bike in neutral, and you're sitting there, and you can hear it in the primary. Tuck, 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 tuck. And then you pull the clutch in, and the noise got quieter. Let the clutch out, noise came back. Now, that can be clutch noise, but neutral knock in particular, they had so many people complain about it that in 2011, they actually released a tech service bulletin for dealers to tell everyone if they hear that knock is normal. And basically what that knock is inside the transmission, how the gear alignment. I don't want to get into too many details. There's a couple in there, the gears and first gear and how everything lines up in the transmission that would create a knocking noise in neutral. Didn't affect every bike, but it was a common problem. And what happens when you start putting better parts in that are more precise, stouter, it can actually unmask that neutral knock that's in the transmission. So, for example, you put in, say, the Dark Horse comp or even Baker's comp, and you put in a nice billet clutch basket with a billet hub and a billet clutch, and suddenly you have this knocking noise. 9 times out of 10, it's the neutral knock in the transmission. Not an uncommon problem at all. The fix is to rebuild the transmission, but sometimes a neutral knock still exists. It exists on brand new transmissions. Even, back then, even, on the original cruise drive models. But that said, I install a ton of Baker transmissions, and I'm actually looking at installing some of the new Gems 6-speed transmissions. Wink, wink, hint, hint. And looking at some of those, but anyway, the neutral knock magically vanishes when you put in a different transmission than the stock cruise drive. So there you go, Bob. Remus, welcome. Better late than never, sir. Thanks for joining. Let's see. Is an external breather a good idea with carbs? Jeremy, external breathing is always good. The more you can make a crankcase breathe, the better. If you can breathe it through a PCV valve, something with an umbrella valve or something like that, it's even better. Because you're not also... All right, there we go. I think we're back. All right, I think we buffered a little bit, guys. Let me get caught up. Everybody back so we didn't miss anything. This little town... I'm going to take a break for a second. This little town I'm in, the internet connection isn't... sometimes it just pops in and pops out. So if I happen to look up and see that it's buffering, I'll just stop and then we can go back. So what do you guys think, man? How many guys we got? We got 263 people in here. What do y'all think? Y'all dig this kind of thing? Let's see. Where are we at? Let's see. Too much oil. Okay. Bob, you're welcome. You're welcome. Listen to the discussion, find out how many things would have to be improved or corrected. I wonder what exactly we are paying HD for, because these bikes certainly aren't cheap. SP, we have to remember, I want to touch on this for a second too. We got to remember, guys, they build 250, 300,000 motorcycles a year. They're not going to be building that many this year, but they build a lot of motorcycles. And I had one person that mentioned, I saw it in the comments, and it bothered me for a minute, that I'm bashing Harley Davidson, or I'm anti-Harley, or whatever the case may be. And that is, I'm going to digress for a second. If you guys can hold off on the tech questions for just a minute. Hold off on the tech questions, please. Let me touch on this. The motor company built an industry, right? The aftermarket industry made the industry better. Okay. You know what? I tell you guys a story. I was at the AMD show. For those of you that aren't familiar, the AMD is aftermarket motorcycle dealer. They're based out of Europe. And the AMD had a show every year in Sturgis. And it was the best. It's the best of the best motorcycle builders, period. And it's an invitation only type thing. You have to go to I'm not going to read the questions right now. If everybody can just hold off for just a second. No questions. because I want to touch on this. So the AMD show used to have Sturgis, and what was so great about that show is you had to show a motorcycle in some of their regional shows. You had to win or place very well in those regional shows. And if you did, you got an invitation to be in their main world championships in Sturgis. And what was so unique about that show was it wasn't judged by people. It was by other people. It was judged by the builders themselves. So you were truly in an elite class there, being judged by your peers. And it's a wonderful format. A guy named Robin Bradley still runs that organization. Robin has been a good friend of mine for many, many years, and just a great, great guy. He loves the motorcycle industry. Robin's a great dude. So anyway, that said, I was there in the AMD show one year. And it was the first year that the AMD show was set up directly next door to a Harley-Davidson tent. Now, Harley-Davidson corporate was in the same parking lot, that had never happened before. Here you have the best of the best aftermarket dealers over here, and then you have the motor company right next door. Pretty weird. Well, needless to say, there are Harley-Davidson people walking around. They weren't wearing bar and shields. They were wearing shirts, and they had suits, and they had notepads and things. And they were getting ideas. They were shopping ideas. So I actually talked to one of them. And I pulled a guy to the side, and I was admitted, I want to say I was new in the industry, but I was up and coming as a builder pretty, at that point, and so I'm here at the VIP thing for the AMD deal. So I questioned one of the guys from HD, and he kind of smirked, and here I had a little bit of arrogance in there. It was like, hey man, you're coming in here, you're copying people's ideas, you're looking around, and he goes, yep, we build the bike, you make it better. Think about that for a second. All right. I am not anti-motor company at all. They provide an industry. They provide a lot of enjoyment for a lot of people. Think of how many hours and the number of smiles and the number of miles, as corny as that sounds, that we've put on with friends and stuff because we have this common interest. We have these motorcycles. They built the industry. And then they fueled that industry with, think programs like HOG and the dealership network and all this kind of stuff. And it made a place for the aftermarket. It made a place for people like me and many other talented people to improve on things. And I love this industry. And if Harley Davidson hadn't done such a great job necessarily building the culture, the aftermarket would have had nothing to build on. So I'm not anti-Harley at all. I do like the motor company, and we have opportunity to constantly make make that motorcycle the best it can be. So sorry, I'll get off my soapbox, and I hope you guys understand that and can give me a thumbs up on it. They're not terrible, but we have to remember we are problem solvers. So the things that I show you guys are things that we see all the time, right? You don't need help and tech support when there's no problems, right? If everything's good, what's the point of a video? Harley does a pretty good job of telling you how great their bikes are as it is anyway. So what you need is when you have a problem, you need tech, you need to see the problems that people can have so you can watch out for it on your own bike. And that's why we're here. We're not anti-Harley. So thank you for listening to my rant. All right, let's get back to it, guys. Thanks for all the comments, you guys. Little Mo, Chuck, Clayton, Busted Nut. Oh, man, I hate when that happens. Joe, Chris, Bob, thanks for the thumbs up, guys. Glad you like the format. Road Glide 16, new to your channel, but I've really enjoyed what I've seen so far. Thank you for what you do. You're welcome, Road Glide. Thank you very much, sir. Jeffrey, awesome. I'm learning. Excellent. So let's do a real blueprint. Everybody, thanks so much. Dieter, thank you. Let's see. You must be from Harley Swift. You must be Switzerland. Switzerland is a beautiful country. I spent time there. Actually, every 2 or 3 years, I do European tours, and it's basically shops will get together and pay me to come teach them how to build engines and how to tune bikes and all that stuff. And I've had the opportunity to be all over Europe. And matter of fact, if you're in Switzerland, not too far outside of Geneva, near the border, Vita Loca Choppers. I spent a lot of time at Vita Loca. Also, you may know Carlo Molinaro and B-Twin Speed Shop. Carlo's a very, very great friend. He's all over Italy and a lot of other places too. I've worked with Carlo for many, many years, and also was at the Motorbike Expo in in Verona. Verona. That's a wonderful, wonderful bike show. Oh man, 10 enormous buildings full of nothing but motorcycle stuff. It's a wonderful place to be. So let's see. For Michael Rose in Perth, I've never been to that side of Australia. I've never been there, but I would love to. I've only been to I believe they call it the Gold Coast side. Main causes of overheating on a twin cam. Rain, that's a very, very broad question. It could be anything that creates a lean fuel mixture, which could be tuning, exhaust leak, intake leak. Something can cause overheating. Ignition timing being too far advanced. There are several things that can cause that, all of which are uniquely different. Excuse me, guys. Let's see. Any ideas where to start as a possible current video on transmissions? Thanks again. Actually, Motoboy, I've got, if you look way back, I've got videos going back 5 and 6 years on this channel, guys. There were 2 videos I did on installing a DD7. There was a video I did about 2 years ago talking about Harley drivelines and transmissions. We talked about the Baker transmission, some of the issues with the Harley ones, with the cruise drives and such. So, yeah, there's some video content there. If you don't get your answer with those videos, then let me know. We talked about primaries and stuff too. Let's see. Harley has a good platform to work from. Amen to that, Frosties. No joke. Bunch of thumbs up, guys. You guys rock. Thank you very much. Frost, really like your live chats, man. Been out riding today. Just came to say hi. Thank you very much. Hope you had a great ride. Frosty's Travels. I'm sure it was frosty today. It is. Well, it was here this morning. The old Chevelle didn't even want to start this morning. It looked like, yeah, I got some EFI tuning to do on that car. Runs like a beast, but it doesn't like to start cold. Dictum factum. It's really Latin. Yes, I'm with you on that. I caught that. F Val, thumbs up, my friend. Good to see you, sir. Hope you're doing well. To keep or not keep extended warranty to use upgraded performance parts. The Halo. That's, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that. The Halo 784 there. That's a really good question. One of the things that came up with that M8 that we did the teardown on, yes, he was in an extended warranty. Yes, extended warranty is paying for the repairs. Here's a kicker with that. If you choose to upgrade parts under an extended warranty repair, your warranty will not cover the difference in the price of the parts between the upgraded ones and the stock parts. Not only that, any upgraded parts you put in, the extended warranty will not cover those upgraded parts should anything happen in the future. So truthfully, that's a personal decision for you, sir. If it were me and I hadn't an extended, to keep or not keep an extended warranty versus upgraded parts, that's a tough question. That's really, man, that's a question you have to answer for yourself. How long you plan on keeping the bike and the gamble you want to take, and a really good check out of that engine, leak down, cylinder pressure, all these other things to try to reduce the possibility that you have other unknown problems before you make those upgrades. So I would think about that. Watching Utah, William, thank you, sir. Big thumbs up. That's what I love about Harley. All the great aftermarket parts for Shovelhead, Evo, twin cam makes life easy for an old garage mechanic like me. You know what? I love being an old garage mechanic sometimes. I love working my old garage at home. If you guys may saw the Chevelle video there, you know, sometimes I just like the very basics and do it old style. Let's see, Frosty's Travels. Had my bike tuned multiple times. I still often have a strong smell of fuel. Any suggestions? Man, it could be state of tune. Check out the air fuel ratios. That's hard to answer that one, man. I would ask for them to give you your actual air fuel ratios at idle, air fuel ratios at steady state cruise, at roll on and wide open throttle. Take a look at that. They should be able to give you those numbers. Let's see. Watching the best of what he does. Thank you very much. Blizzard in Utah. Stay warm. Stay warm. Brad Walter, sunny and 80 in Florida. Brad, rub it in, my friend. Rub it in. I think it's 60 degrees here in good old Winder, Georgia. Let's see. No, 70 degrees. Kathy Walker, thumbs up. Hey, Kathy. Good to see you. Good to see you. You should have said hello to me at the bike show. I know you'd mentioned you saw me there, but yeah, always come up. Let's do a high five and a handshake. Say hello. How to tell if you have crank run out issues without opening your case. Eric, that's almost impossible to do, my friend. If your run out is bad enough, it can produce a sumping issue, which we talked about in the beginning, some of the symptoms, and also the video the other day. There truthfully is just no way to know unless you open it up and check it, as bad as I hate to say that to you. Let's see. Brian Norwell, thank you very much, sir. Reading about how great the M8 heads flow. Should I interpret that porting these heads will not yield great results we saw out on the twin cam heads? Actually, sir, that take no offense with how I'm about to say it, that couldn't be further from the truth. Yes, they do flow tremendously better simply because it is a 4-valve head. If you've never seen our video on the M8 versus twin cam series there, I talked about the heads. And then I did another one talking about valve area and why M8 heads work so much better. And it's not that the M8 head is necessarily better. It's a 4-valve head. 4-valve heads are more efficient. If you want to get science and geek on me, watch that video. I think you'll enjoy it. Considerable increases can be had by properly doing a set of M8 heads. But M8 heads are also incredibly sensitive to exhaust choice, compression ratio, and cam choice. Do not piecemeal a build for an M8. That's going to be my recommendation. Whoever you choose as your builder, I would love it if it were us. But if not, buy their system. Get their cams, get their heads, get their pistons, get everything from them. And that way you can ensure that it'll work. Because you can twin cams were more forgiving. You could kind of fluff the cam a little bit and stuff. And it would kind of work okay. But M8, you need to stick with a whole system on an M8. A fully engineered system would be my recommendation. Brian, thank you very much for the super chat there, sir. Let me take a deep breath and take something to drink here. Let's see. What are you guys drinking, by the way? Huh? What are you drinking? I know we've got some Captain fans or maybe some bourbon fans drinking at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, not everybody's. It's not 3 o'clock for everybody. Marshall Young, what kind of training did you take to get started in the industry, and what would you recommend? Education goes way back. Engineering, a lot of physics, a lot of calculus, a lot of all that stuff. ASE certifications, Master Tech, this, that, and the other. I mean, it's kind of been all over the place, man. For someone just getting started, you really have to choose what career path you're thinking. It's a very, man, I'm going to be blunt. It's a wonderful industry. I absolutely love the motorcycle industry. The people are just wonderful, wonderful companies. It's truly a wonderful industry to be in. It's a tough industry to be in right now. So think about your career path. Do you want to be on the custom bike side? Do you want to be on the OE side? Do you want to be more in marketing and sales? Do you want to be, because there's so many different avenues you could go, right? You can be product reps, you can work for distributors, you can work for manufacturers. I would say decide what side of the industry you want to be in first before you jump in and start paying for a bunch of training and stuff like that. And so that's a good thing. But I will tell you, man, it's a hard business to be in these days. It's getting harder and harder to make a living and feed a family in this industry. It's a wonderful industry, and I wouldn't do anything else. But it's tough. So think about all the possible avenues, for training there. So that's what I would recommend. Think about what you want 10, 15 years from now, not for what you want right now. Call that old man wisdom. How many old men have I got out there? Thumbs up on the old man wisdom, right? Think about what you want 10 years from now, not what you want now. Anyway, thanks. That's a good question, Marshall. Thanks for asking that. Krieger asks, having the fueling hydraulic cam plate SNS 510 cams installed on my O2 Electroglide, I typically ride in the 2,000 to 3,000 RPM range. Anything else I should do to bring the old girl back to life? Yeah, that's a good cam. The SNS 510 is really a good go-to cam for that. Another thing you can think of that you could do, if you wanted to, as a second step, pull the heads on it, measure it's kind of a low-cost little extra performance boost here. Measure your head to piston clearance. That's called quench. And get that down to about 30 thousandths. You're probably going to be at about 52 to 55 thousandths stock. If you pull the heads on it, measure that piston to head clearance. Deck height is the other way to put it, just measuring where the piston is, and get that closer to 30 thousandths with some MLS head gaskets. That'll bump your compression a little bit, and without breaking the budget, that'll give you a nice little increase there too. So that might be a good thought for you. Let's see. Better Emery Clary, you're right. Better late than never, sir. Thank you very much. Let's see where we're at. Eagle Red. Oh, this one popped up. I just hit the scroll button and realized there's a whole bunch of thumbs up and everything in here. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up because I see Mark Feeney is having an Eagle Rare. Oh, man, an Eagle Rare. That is a nice, smooth sipping bourbon, boy. Whew, Eagle Rare. My man. He's got some class. How about that? Krieger, you're welcome for answering your question. Jeffrey Jones, old man here. Thumbs up, buddy. Let's see. Good old Yingling. Ain't nothing wrong with a Yingling, that's for sure. I'm a beer fan, too. I do like really good craft beers. All right, let's see. Old but not too much wisdom, Michael. That's hilarious. Old man, 45 years as a tech. Man, thanks for joining us. I would... Vanisland Steve BC, I'm guessing you're out of British Columbia, if that would be correct. I've never been to BC. Most of the people I know, well, I know some guys on the west coast of Canada, if I'm there right, and throughout that area. But most of the people I know are from the Ontario area, and I like it up in Canada, man. It's good folks up in Canada. More thumbs up. Coffee. It's early in Skippy Land. Where is Skippy Land? Where is that? Well, let's see. Early. You've got to be, oh, you're on the other side of the pond. Absolute Monster in Phoenix. Ray, good man. Thumbs up. Brandon Stone, when it comes to warranty work on an engine, if a customer wants to upgrade to more power, how does that work when it comes to the warranty work? Well, let's see. What time is it? It's 3:15. Let's keep rolling, boys. I'm good for another 15 minutes. What do y'all think? Yeah, let's go for another 15, 20 minutes. What the heck? All right. How that works. A lot of that is based on the warranty company, but I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to give you a wink, wink. Yeah, I can say something. I'm working on extended warranty opportunities with a company right now that would be able to put extended warranties on motorcycles even as part of performance upgrades. Think about that for a second. It's kind of a very new thing to the industry. It's backed by a company that's been, they're a huge company. This isn't a fly-by-night sort of thing. So I'm working on that because what I want to be able to do is offer people very long-term extended warranties even after they've had modifications done. So stay tuned for that. To answer your question, if a customer wants to upgrade to more power, how does that work? Man, that's tough. Typically what it comes down to is if you're upgrading anything during a warranty repair, you end up having to pay, ooh, excuse me, whew. You end up having to pay for that upgrade. Any difference in parts from stock or OE, and most of the time if you upgrade parts, the upgraded parts would not be covered under most extended warranties. So keep that in mind. Let's see. Macau. Ooh. And we have reconnected. Okay, we buffered for a second there. All right, so I'm typically not an IPA fan. Just something about that, but that is a good IPA. I like that. Knob Creek Reserve and Root Beer, Moto Boy. Now, Knob Creek Reserve, we can't always talk about motorcycles, right? I did say if you came here, we may talk about beverages as well. Knob Creek, a Knob Creek Old Fashioned is the ultimate. I love a Knob Creek Old Fashioned. Knob Creek and Root Beer, I've never thought about that. I think I'll be trying that. 55 Alberta, far warmer than normal, no doubt. Woodford Reserve, Richard, my man, that's another great. I guess you would classify Woodford Reserve. That's a nice Scotch whiskey. I'm not mistaken. The Mad Snapper, hello from Savannah. I haven't been to Savannah in quite a while. It's been a few years. Savannah, I love it down there. It's great. Well, the bugs and the humidity, but that's another thing. Chris Caswell, 2020 107 best cam and exhaust. It's hard to say, man. You've been around for a while. Oh, we're buffering again. There we go. We're back. Best cam and exhaust, man. It's up to the owner. Exhaust. So much of the exhaust is the look and the sound of the exhaust and what somebody likes. The cam choice is their riding style. So the best cam is the one that's chosen correctly for you. That particular customer. Let's see. Terry, 103 engine with top-end noise like a sewing machine. Is this normal? And there's a fix. Great videos. Terry, thumbs up. Thank you, sir. That normal word. Man, I hate that normal word. It's impossible for me to give you an honest answer. I will be straightforward with you, sir. So, Terry, I can't tell you what is normal. I haven't heard it for myself. I will tell you, if you were able to straddle a small block Chevy in your 69 Camaro and go for a ride, it's a pushrod engine with very similar size parts and bore and stroke ratios and valve sizes and things like that. If you straddled one of those engines and went down the road, you'd be amazed at how many noises a pushrod engine makes. The only thing that you can really do is, check and make sure the engine's healthy. Bore scope the cylinders, look at the condition of the cylinders, the pistons, do leak down, cylinder pressure tests. That will give you an overall perspective on the health of that engine. Open up, and since, I'm not sure 103 what year it is, if it's a spring tensioner year, 06 and back, open up the cam chest, make sure the spring tensioner is good. That's really about the best you can do, man. So it's hard to say from there. Let's see, Thompson Soccer 12. I have a 131 kit, 10,000 miles on it. Now needs a total replacement. Luckily, everything on a warranty, and they're trying to get a crate. And riding it too hard. Have you heard of an underlying issues? Guys, come on. That's what. Oh man, I was hoping I wasn't gonna get that question. I'm not laughing at your misery, Thomas Soccer there, I promise. Riding it too hard. Man, I don't know any other way to be but direct. If I build you an engine, beat the fool out of it. I mean, that's the honest answer. It's sold as a performance engine kit. It's 131 cubic inches. Here's you a performance kit. Pay a lot of money for this build. Pay a lot of money for this engine, but don't ride it too hard. I want to see a bunch of smiley faces come up in this chat. And please, again, Thompson Soccer there, I'm not laughing at you by any means, sir. So please don't take this the wrong way. But come on, man. You know what I mean? You can't sell somebody. You can't sell somebody a brand new Corvette and tell them to keep it under 50 miles an hour. If somebody's going to sell you something and it's a performance build and it should be built right, all of these aspects of it, run the piss out of it. Run it. And I don't believe in the am I running it too hard thing. I mean, if you're spooling this sucker up to 5,000 RPM and constantly and absolutely beating it to death, yeah, you're going to see accelerated wear. You're going to see a decrease in performance and all that type of stuff. But I seriously doubt you're doing that. And I'm going to guess, if you'll leave a comment here and let me know if I've got this right, I'm going to guess you're probably running at 70, 80 miles an hour on the interstate for a long period of time. You may hit the rev limiter 3 or 4 times. You may blast off from a red light every now and then. But you're not pounding this thing off a rev limiter and doing burnouts and all that other kind of stuff. And if that's the case, no, you're not running it too hard. It should be able to handle it. That's my honest answer. So, man, I hate you're having trouble with it. I really do. Cardi and Coke, Knob Creek. Man, you guys, y'all a bunch of drinkers. I think most of my followers are alcoholics. I love it. Cheers, guys. Cheers. All right. Absolute Monster in Phoenix. Ray, you don't, man. An absolute and monster. What is it? Oh, wait a minute. Isn't Arizona the only state in the union that doesn't observe daylight savings time? I think that's right. So you're what, 12? What is it, 12:15 there in Phoenix? An absolute monster. That's awesome. Let's see, Bob, man. Is that shirt available? Let me see. I'm sorry, guys. Bear with me. Let me scroll up here. You guys are awesome. I love this community. Thank you guys so much. I love your comments. I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing your stories. You guys are awesome. So thanks for hanging out with me on this Saturday. All right, let's see. Somebody asked if the shirt that I'm wearing is available. Yes, it is. The Skunkworks shirt. And actually, the back of it is that. That's what the back of it looks like. If Dewey will probably pop up a thing there, and if you look at the merchandise link here on YouTube, there it's got all of our apparel, and there's sweatshirts and mugs and actually our phone cases. Phone cases are kind of cool. We've got them for iPhones and Samsungs. I did get a sample of that, so that's a pretty neat little thing. I'm gonna do all kind of stuff with a little skunk. Everybody thinks everybody likes the skunk. Mad Dog 2020, Jekyll 120 RX, buddy. Mad Dog 2020. Oh, have I got some stories, some high school stories about MD 2020. Man, I'm in the South, brother. You pick that up at gas stations around here. Let's see. You guys are a riot. 2020, you should be, let's see. Victim being told by James Lanning. James, I'm glad you're on here. I have not heard from you. James, you are the one that won either the timer cover or the shirt. You need to send me an email or Pete an email, Kevin at ProTwin or Pete at ProTwin. Give us your address and your shirt size because you're the first one that commented on the issue with the M8. I owe you a shirt, man. Don't forget about that. So send me a message. Used to have a Chevy with 250 6-cylinder 2-speed power glide transmission, slow and go. Yes, sir. Nothing like 2 gears. What? I love those old power glides. Best way to stop oil in the breather, 17107. Emory, there's an ongoing issue. With that, the best thing that you can do, sir, is a fueling vented dipstick. We've got them on our website. They're like $280. That's the best place to start, and that can help slow that problem down a little bit. The next step is cam plate and oil pump, unfortunately. Daniel Bates, I saw all the smiles and the laughs from everybody. Daniel Bates, write it like you stole it, baby. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. Thompson, sorry, thank you. Just making sure. Gainesville, Georgia, much love. Gainesville, not too far from me, as you know. Get a Skunkworks. Chris, amen, brother. Thumbs up there. Let me see if I can find some questions. Flashback, Mad Dog 20. Christopher J. Flashback, Mad Dog. I guarantee you, every one of you old gray-headed suckers. See, I'm starting to actually get some gray here too. I promise you, every one of you old gray-headed suckers on here like me have a Mad Dog 2020 story. Don't lie. We all have an MD 2020 story. It has to happen. Let's see. For sure, awesome shirt. Yeah, Dewey, good deal. Mad Dog 2020. James Lanning, Mad Dog, spell it backwards. Oh, that is awesome. Let's see, Ray. It's almost 1:30. Arizona and Hawaii are the only two states that do not do daylight savings time. That actually messed me up on a few cross-country motorcycle trips. That dip in the time zone there. It was kind of funny. Larry Jones, what kind of upgrades would you recommend for the 131? Honestly, Larry, I would. You could change some cams and things like that, but that's one you got to be really careful of. Valve to valve clearances, valve to piston clearances, and stuff like that. I would. That's a tough one. You know what? I would love to talk to you about that, and I want to do some more research on that and tell you some of the things that I found before I would answer that question. That's something to talk about. Anyway, we'll get there. Okay, I want to share. James, send me info. Bad memories with Mad Dog from Mark Davey. Any issues with Evo sumps? Daniel Bates there. Evo did have its problems too. Everybody thinks that the Evo was the absolute perfect engine, and I'm sorry, that's just not true. I will say that sometimes I'm completely flabbergasted with how bad an Evo and Shovelhead can be, and then still run. It blows my mind sometimes. But some of the issues with it was the breathers. The breather gears. Sometimes they had plastic gears on there sometimes, and then the wear on the inside of the case and stuff. So they had their issues. But it had to do with, the breather gears and breather system and all that in that. So then you had head breathers and you had case breathers and you had all of that. So they had their own issues. Let's see. John Rowe had to end a tick on a 103, changed Amsoil, and it went away. I'm amazed. Amsoil is a great oil. I wouldn't tell you that Amsoil would always solve a tick. Depends on what the tick is, but I'm glad it worked out for you, sir. Fantastic. Jim and I have not heard about MD 2020 since I lived in Texas back in the 80s. Man, you got to come to Georgia. They have MD 2020 in a freezer at every single gas station that you can possibly go to, man. It's pretty awesome. Stephen Cahill, cheers to Indian Larry. Hey, where's he at? Right there. Cheers to Indian Larry. Indian Larry was a heck of a guy, man. What a really, 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 really cool guy. Matter of fact, you mentioned Indian Larry. Indian Larry and Mondo Porras from Denver's Choppers were really good friends as well. Mondo has been a friend of mine for many, many, many years. He's a great guy. He moved his shop from Vegas to Reno quite a few years ago. So once this COVID thing dies out just a little bit, I'm actually going to hop on a plane and go visit my friend Mondo. I'm going to sit down and interview him, and I'm going to do a video with Mondo. Let you tell his story. If you remember, matter of fact, here's the cool thing. If you remember the biker build-off that Discovery Channel did with Indian Larry versus Mondo, Mondo built one of his long Springer front-end diggers, and then Larry built one of his, and they did their ride on the Discovery Channel build-off. Well, Mondo still has that bike. So what I'm going to do while I'm there is me and Mondo are going to go for a ride. I'm going to ride his digger. We're going to talk about Indian Larry. We're going to talk about Mondo's career. We're going to talk about Denver. A lot of people don't know Denver Mullins. Unfortunately, Denver passed away many years ago. Actually, died in him and Mondo were really big into drag racing boats. And Denver crashed the boat and passed away in that. And that was rough. But good old Mondo, man, he kept Denver's Choppers alive, kept building these long front end West Coast bikes and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm going to go out to Reno, visit with Mondo. We're going to interview him. We're going to go for a ride, and I'm going to film all of that and bring you guys along with it. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, so thanks for bringing that up, Stephen. Cheers to Indian Larry. All right, so Bruce, my mate's 2012 103 twin cam dyno's blowing excessive oil blowback through the throttle body and air cleaner, even on the pipes over saddlebags. Is this excessive sumping? May not be sumping. It could just be blow by. We have to differentiate between the two. The first thing is do a leak down cylinder pressure test, see where you're at. That's going to tell you more than likely if it's a ring issue. And so it could be coming from blow by or being created from sumping. The only way to know if it's sumping is to pull that plug really from the bottom of the case, measure how much oil comes out of the bottom of that case, and that's a good way to know. It could be from either one. Jib, Shinerbach, that's a Texas, if I'm not mistaken, right? Isn't Shinerbach out of Texas? Christopher J. left us. I was wondering about that. Krieger, not gray-headed anymore. Now I'm chromed. I'm waiting for that to happen. I don't know. It's getting thinner up here. I used to have locks when I was younger, but it's getting thinner and thinner. And I apologize. I don't remember your name. The fellow that asked me earlier about getting into the motorcycle industry. Well, if you want less hair when you get old, get in the motorcycle business. I promise you'll have less. But let's see. Who else we got? Too many Mad Dog stories from Motorboy. No kidding. Told her to wear her seatbelt, MD 2020. Let's see. High video, great Fat Boys 20 all air filter. 24 alcohol cells. Sorry guys, let me catch up. I've been running my mouth here. Let me catch up, see if we got any tech questions here. Aaron Cox, which cam, Woods 22X or Zippers 468? My preference, man, I'd have to talk to you. Understand I use everybody's cams. I have my own grinds as well. I choose cams based off your riding style. I listen to everything that you tell me to help you pick the right cam. There is no perfect cam made by anybody. The perfect cam is the right cam for you. And that's my feeling on that. James, thank you. Send it to me. Kevin, can I ship a twin cam to you for rebuild? If so, how would you tune it? John, yes, you can. I would say better than 60-70% of the bikes that we have in our shop are from other states, and many are from other countries. It's not unusual for people to ship bikes to us at all. So yes, you can ship a bike to us. You can ship us an engine if you want us to do a crate engine for you. That's another option. How would I tune it? Excuse me. I would need to have the bike to tune it, is the reality of it. How would I do it? It could be done a plethora of ways. It could be done with man, we work with every tuning system. I don't care if it's TTS Master Tune, Power Vision, Direct Link, the old race tuners, the new race tuners, Thundermax, TCFIs. It doesn't matter. We can tune with anything. So I would tune it after we have a conversation. All right. Krieger. I'm still flabbergasted over the dude who argued with you about removing his cam tensioners and just ran the cams with chains only. G's. All right. I'm going to respond to that. Krieger, thank you. Let me take a sip. I don't laugh at anybody. I'm not going to laugh at the old boy. And he's probably watching right now, and that's fine. I frankly don't care. I asked that individual, I'm not going to mention the name, please, and I'm going to say, if any of you know who that was that kept commenting on that over and over and over and over and over again, do not mention the name. We don't do that here. All right? So this isn't, we don't do that. It's not our style. Let me explain why I chuckled at that one. The cam chain tensioners are there for a reason. The demonstration that was given, or the example, the argument on the other side that was given was, they don't do that on small block Chevys. They don't do that on Fords. They don't do that on all that. Here's the thing. The end of the crank on it, let's talk small block Chevy. Or big block Chevy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter small Ford, Chrysler, Pontiac, it doesn't matter. The end of the crank is perfectly supported right at the flange. The cam is supported right at the block, right at the end of the flange, with the gears bolted directly to it. You can run a tight chain on that with no tensioners because there's no opportunity for the crank or the cam to flex. I'm going to scroll forward on all the questions. I want you guys to give me a thumbs up and make sure you understand this. All right? Everybody give me a thumbs up on this. So there's no opportunity for anything to flex and move. You don't have that in a Harley engine. All right, you have run out on crank, you have cams, you have all of this stuff, right? You have to have a tensioner in there of some sort. So here's what I told. Again, I don't laugh at anybody, but here's what I asked that individual to do. And I actually even offered to cut a cam cover open myself. Cut a cam cover open so that you can put a timing light down inside the cam cover. What I want you to do, and if you are watching, sir, here's what I want you to do. Here's my fear. Now, I'm going to back up just a second. Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. I'm going to back up for a second. There's a certain amount of keyboard knowledge and keyboard education that's on the internet. Now, the internet can be an enormous, wonderful source of information. There's absolutely no question. But there is also a lot of bad advice out there. All right. And when I see bad advice going across and people making decisions on their $30,000 investment based off of bad advice, I'm going to be blunt. It pisses me off. Money is too hard to make these days. And when you work incredibly hard for that money that you earn, it's foolish to follow advice from somebody that you don't know, somebody that doesn't have a reputation, somebody that has no history or anything like that. It's foolish, guys. Okay, I'm not going to claim that I know everything, but you need to know that the source of your information is good information. So I digress. Thumbs up. Everybody's still on the same page. We got 284 viewers. All right, so here was my challenge. If you're so confident that you can remove the tensioners and everything will run perfectly fine, I will supply you with a cam cover that I have cut open that will allow you to run that motorcycle while you put a timing light, a strobe, on the cam gear and on the crank gear. All right. And I said, put up a dot on the timing mark on the cam gear, a timing, you don't, what the, yeah. Put a mark on the cam gear and a mark on the crank gear, run a timing light, watch the strobe and videotape that. Because what I want to see are the timing marks doing like this while it's coming over center. And while that cam's coming over center and it's banging, banging, banging. All right. That happens even if you have a tensioner. There's no question. But let's imagine if we add an 1/8 of an inch, a 1/4 of an inch of slack to that chain, what is that cam going to do? It's going to go in both directions. Am I right? All right. I know we got at least 200 and something people watching. We've got 200 and something people watching here with varying different mechanical abilities. Correct? I mean, some of you guys have never turned a wrench. Some of you guys have turned a bunch of wrenches. Respect to all of you, no question. But come on. Right? I mean, so anyway, I'm done with that one. I'm not going to mention that subject anymore. That's my take on that one. I'm sure you guys will all agree. And it's almost 3:38, guys. I'm gonna take a couple of more questions. My throat is killing me. I've almost lost my voice. Let me see if I got a couple more questions here. Before I answer those questions, I want to thank you guys a million for joining me here. We've been going for almost an hour and 45 minutes. I said an hour, but we're having too much fun and you guys are hanging out. Krieger, my bad for opening that can of worms. No, sir. I ain't no apology on that one. I wanted to straighten that one out. All right, let me scroll up here, see if I can find a couple of good questions, guys. If I have missed your questions, I apologize. We're having a little fun. We're doing a little tech. If I've missed your question, if you don't mind, leave it in the comments because the live comments won't show up below, and I'll do my best to answer that question for you. And I want to give again a shout out to all the members for supporting the channel, guys. You guys are awesome. Your shares, all the new subscribers, everything else. I'm watching this family grow here, and it's wonderful. And I thank you guys for being a part of the community and help making it possible. So thank you very much. Let's see. I'm going to pick a couple of questions here. Joe Burdick asks a question. Remove the balancer on a 128 M8 build. Why or why not? I'm going to say this. Remove it. No question. Okay? There are reasons that I can't get into. Here's the deal on removing a balancer on an M8. If you're splitting the cases and you're balancing the crank, remove the balancer. All right, remove the balancer, but balance the crank. What will happen is you'll have a little bit more of a vibration at idle, but it will, if the balance is done proper, you'll actually be smoother at 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 RPM than you would if you had the factory balancer in it. If you are going to balance the crank, remove the balancer. And that's all I can say. Let's just leave it at that. I throw wrenches. Does that count? Daniel? Yeah. That's why you need to use cheap wrenches for your teardowns, because you can throw them and you don't have to look for them. Don't use your snap-on wrenches for teardowns. All right, let's see. Always good to watch. Let's see. Jim and I had a rebuilt 350 Chevy back in the 80s. You're 100% correct. I'm just now scrolling, guys. The comments are coming like crazy. Thank you. Cams bounce back and forth. Any known issues? 2014 twin cams. Thinking about pulling the trigger. No, here's what I'm going to do. It's 3:41. For the next 4 minutes, I'm going to do a question blitz. So if you've asked a question, I'm not going to read your name. I'm going to run through the questions and answer them real quick. All right, you ready? Here we go. Let's start at the top. Let's see. Got one right here. Kevin Roach, 100%. Thanks, Kev. Cobalt Cycles, check them out. Heavy truck mechanic for 48 years. Heavy truck mechanic, some of the hardest mechanic works anybody can be in. Much respect to you, sir. Laughing my ass off. You can't fix stupid? No, sir, you can't. But you can ignore it. You can ignore stupid. Let's keep rolling. Leland Berg for Stage 1 upgrade, Twin Cat 96 air cleaner pipes, no cat tuning. How much performance difference can be realized depending on the choice of slip-on mufflers? Slip-on mufflers will not make a tremendous difference in performance. Make sure you have a muffler that has a really good baffle with a heavy cheese grater louver design and a spiral pattern. That's a key. Man, we're rolling. All right, here we go. Standing cam. Thank you, Bob. I have to watch later. Came off night shift. Aaron, welcome back. Let's see. A thumbs up. Upgrades 2016. 1200. Email me, Robert White. Kevin@protwin.com or Pete@protwin.com. We can go through some options. Michael Burns, why you say Shaft 2 style run out for gear drive, 3-piece crank is kind of a rotten egg in a Harley engine. It's good provided it's treated properly. That's the big thing. Manufacturing tolerances and all that. Let's see. Always good to watch. Thank you, Travis. Thanks for joining us, Travis. Thanks for supporting the channel. 09 Crossbones, 500K. You know, when would you recommend a fluid change? I would recommend a fluid change every 5,000. Let's see, you got 500K a year on it. I would do a fluid change every 5,000 miles unless you live in an extremely humid environment. In that condition, you may want to consider changing it a little more frequently because of condensation. When you store a bike, do not crank it up over and over and over again unless you run it at normal operating temperature for an extended period of time, because you'll build up excessive condensation, rust bearings, and all the other ferrous items inside the engine. Let's see how many we can do here. John Worth, 103 versus 107. Depends on how you're going to use it, sir. If you bore stock cylinders to a 107, that is the last time you will be able to bore those cylinders. If you suspect that you're going to keep the bike for a very long time, you're not concerned with getting the absolute most performance out of it, 4 cubic inches will not make that much of a difference. And if you have a 103, you can bore it larger, 5, 10, 15, 20 thousandths over the life of that motorcycle. That's how you compare the two. Krieger, thank you, sir, very much. 124-inch twin cam running at HPS 62 millimeters, 1.8 intake. Is that too much for the 124? It depends on RPM and gearing, Mr. Lesko. If you're going to run mid-range to higher RPMs on that engine, 62 is fine. For lowest to mid-range torque on a 124 cubic inch twin cam, a 50 to a 52 millimeter throttle body will optimize low to mid-range torque under 3,000 RPM. When you start getting to 62, stuff some gearing under that bad boy, 337, 341 final drive, your 62 millimeter will be great, especially if you're running a mid-duration cam. There we go. Thumbs up, John Worth, 103, 107, just got that one. Doyle Henderson, I've got a 2010 103 UL, almost 95,000 miles, bone stock, major prime, replaced the compensator 3 times. Is there anything I should look for before extending work? Yes. If you've had to replace compensator 3 times, you need to check crank runout. Absolutely. Crank runout could be beating that compensator to death. Also, look at your primary chain tensioner. If it's a manual one, it could be ratcheting up too tight. Check runout on your transmission main shaft as well. Something is beating that compensator to death. Need to check that. I hope you know people that ship bikes because my 20 is coming your way. Chris, yes, sir, we do. You've got a couple of options on that. Federal Motorcycle Transport, Google them. Federal Motorcycle Transport, Allied Motorcycle Transport, basically the same company. The other is uship.com, the letter U, ship.com. They will bid on your shipping. There's tons of carriers on there. They'll bid on it. Look for the ones that have a highest rating. I use those guys all the time. uship.com is a great place to do that. Harbor Freight, baby, thumbs up, man. Cheap tools. Bill, thank you. Love the channel. Love that you're here. Thank you, sir. Ray, thanks for the thumbs up. Thanks for being a member, supporting the channel. Iron Man, I dig that. I'm actually an Iron Man. Is that Iron Man triathlon or Iron Man comic books? I've actually done 6 Iron Man triathlons. A lot of people don't know that. What's in the cup? Coca-Cola right now, sir. Coca-Cola. That's it. Let's see. John, SS14111 Evo. Is it an Evo or twin cam? Thanks. SNS 111. It could be either. Move catalytic converter in an M8 Only if you plan on tuning the bike. Aaron Cox, if you remove the catalytic converter, you will have to tune the system for the bike to run optimally. There is no question. You remove the cat, you tune the bike, proper tune, it should run cooler. There you go. Compensator or no compensator, James Lanning, thank you very much. I prefer to run a compensator on bikes that are going to be toured, unless you are running a belt drive primary. Belt drive primary, the belt will absorb a lot of the shocks in the engine and also absorb some of the vibrations. I am not a fan of running a solid motor sprocket on a bike that's going to be toured on with a chain. Some people will disagree with me. I have my reasons that I don't. Anytime you can eliminate a harmonic vibration in any mechanical device, you will reduce the wear of that mechanical device. Keep that in mind. Hit rewind on that a couple of times. John Harmon. Oh, wait a minute. You just got my attention, John Tavares. John Harmon, 120 shovel head. Have you ever worked on one? Twice. John Harmon, if you don't know who Harmon is, he was the man back in the day. 120 shovel heads. Oh, my goodness. The Magnum engines, all of that stuff. There is nothing. Well, I was going to say there's nothing like a Harmon Springer front end. Harmon's front ends are absolutely distinguishable from every other front end that's out there. But Harmon's 120 shovel heads, if you have a 120 shovel head and you're working on one, that's awesome. I would love to see pictures. If you have one and you're not working on it and you want somebody to work on it, I would love to work on that engine. But Harmon's front ends, Sugar Bear's front ends, and of course Mondo Porsche's front ends for dinner choppers. Awesome stuff. Harmon, man, gone way too soon. Harmon was something else. Josh, let's see, what time is it? 3:48. Screw it. Let's keep going, boys. 10.5-1 fuel and 574 is good setup overall. 50 millimeter throttle body. I can't give you an answer on the throttle body. I don't know the engine size. 10.5-1 compression on the 574 cam. I don't know the engine format. I'm assuming we're talking twin cam here. It all depends where you ride. Fuel octane availability, weight of the bike, weight of you, weight of your passenger. It varies, man. Look at cylinder pressure, look at intake close, all that. 10.5-1 compression, 93 octane fuel. You don't want any more than about 200 pounds of cylinder pressure on a 93 octane. And maybe your cylinder pressure would allow for that. Andrew Fenwick jumped in. Max compression M8 on pump gas, no cranking issues. I would say 11 if you've got 93 octane availability and you're at lower altitude, sea level, give or take. 11-1, 11-10 is about as high as I want to go for a street engine. 11-1, 11, maybe 11-2, depends on the cam. Press crank from Oco cause pinion run out partially. Yes, absolutely. Recommend to fix. Welding or aftermarket assembly. If you will take a look at the two videos I did maybe about a year ago from Dark Horse Crankworks, we talked about plugging, welding, balancing, truing. Definitely a great video to watch. All right. Christopher J. Press, thanks for your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you very much. We're going to kick it into overdrive, and I'm cutting this off in 2 minutes. You guys have got me going. All right. Thanks for your question. I appreciate the Halo. You're welcome. Doyle Henderson, by the way, thanks from Buford. You're welcome from Winder. I love what you do with 3T Sports. Jake S., thank you very much. We had to take a break from that organization. Obviously, there was a lot of races. Gyms were closed. I couldn't train to do these events. We still were able to gift the adaptive bicycles to several children, which we were very excited about. And we also were able to gift an adaptive van to another family, thanks to some wonderful donors. But we're going to be kicking that back up as soon as this airborne crap goes away. All right, one more drink. Here we go. 5 stars for 3T Sports. Kerry Lewis, thank you very much. What clutch would you Chief Engineer, what clutch would you recommend for a stock clutch? If it is a twin cam, the American Prime manufacturing clutch is a fantastic clutch. If it is an M8, we use the Bandit Sportsman clutch in the M8s, until which time we have our new clutch coming out for the M8s, as well as clutch baskets and a few other items. We'll get to that later. Hint, hint, if you're listening. Aaron Cox, head to bed, awesome talk. I'm not going to join you, but enjoy yourself. Sleep well. What RPM are you lugging a 110 motor? I would keep those engines above 2,500 RPM, sir. Keep them up there. a V-twin engine likes above 2,500 RPM. I would do that. How long do complete rebuild on an M8 107 Vivid Black? That depends on the everything that we're doing. That would require a phone call. We need to talk about that one. Hit us up at either Pete at protwin.com or me, Kevin at protwin.com. We can go through the details and get you a lead time. Bill Brothers, keep going. What's your thought on Vance and Hines Fuel Pack FP3 for tuning? Thinking upgrade Stage 1, Stage 2 kits on HD 107. Depends on the level of tuning and comfort level and your comfort level, Steve. I can do far more with any other tuning system than that one. I'll leave it at that. James Lanning. Oh, man, more icons than I can count. 63 Spatch, thank you for supporting the channel, sir. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate the time you share. From 63 Spatch, one of our channel members. Thank you. Let's see. Loving this. John, we're rolling, boys. Come on now. I think I finally got to the bottom of the comments. Oh, we're almost there. Run 1 gallon, 110 octane, 4.5 gallons, 9.1 ethanol, my 10.5 compressor, even on my safe. Sure, you can run the numbers on that, kind of average things out. There's nothing wrong with mixing a little bit of two together. Make sure your 110 octane, even if it contains a little bit of lead, you're not going to hurt anything, or a lead substitute. I run lead in my Chevelle, run lead in my old GMC Inline 6, stuff like that. In an Evo, you're fine. No worries. All right, here we go. Do you recommend gear-driven cams even if run out is below 3,000 stock crank similar stick with chain drive? No, sir. If you've got 3,000s or less, you are safe for gear drive. Keep going. All right, guys, if you got a question, I'm shutting this sucker down in 5 minutes, and I'm going to go home and rest my throat. So let's go. Come on. Do you recommend gear drive? Okay, we answered that. What do you think of lowering the spring pressure on the cam chains? 05 twin cam. I would just... messing with any of that, man, just put hydraulic on it. Just upgrade to hydraulic tensioner. They work well if gear drive is not in the budget or acceptable. Best way to get 100 horse from a 10.5 to 1 Evo. Build it big. If you know your compression, you need that, you build it big. We've got what I call System 95, which is 95 horse and torque. It's a very high compression ratio for an Evo. Evos are not as compression friendly as twin cams and M8s. So I would not put that on an FL model, but if it were geared properly, everything else, 95 horse and torque, very reliable, System 95. Email me about that one if you're interested. Thumbs up from Daniel. Thanks for doing this. Baldwin County, Georgia. Why is 5250 the magic number on the dyno? 5250 is not a magic number. It is a result of the formulation of horsepower versus torque at given RPM. If you wanted to look, it's a constant 5250. You will always find that horsepower and torque cross at 5250 as a result of the formula for measured torque, calculated horsepower at a given RPM. It's truly math. That's where 5250 cross come from. Chevelle, what year? 1967. Bill, check out my video I did on the story of my Chevelle. Did that a couple of weeks ago. Daniel Bates, you are welcome. Thank you for joining us. Kevin, where is your Patreon link? I actually do not have a Patreon. I may start that later. I don't know. Thank you for asking, James. I'll look into that. Best octane boosters. Don't know of any, Jekyll. I very rarely do I run octane boosters. I prefer to build the engine to the appropriate compression ratio or to the appropriate fuel octane the bike's going to be running, then tune the fuel or the ignition tables accordingly. Hard to say which is the best. If I were to pick any one, I would probably go to a shelf and grab something from Klotz. They've been around for a very, very long time. Best replacement drive belt, any aftermarket better than OEM? Gates. I think Gates has got their hands pretty much wrapped around that. Ever worked on a Goldwing motors? Roy Rolfe? No, sir, I haven't. I'm not at all familiar with those motors at all. I understand they're very good engines. They last a very long time. Anything from Honda does, but I've never seen the inside of one. Best channel on YouTube. Thanks, buddy G-Dub. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You're awesome. Have you ever run nitro meth on an M8? Sure you have on a twin cam. Yes. Some of that I have to keep quiet. We've got a pretty incredible twin cam build coming up, by the way. It's going to be extremely large, making an extremely large amount of boost, and it's going to be an animal. So wait for some videos on that one. We're shooting 300 horsepower on that bad boy. So wait till you see a video on that one. I normally keep those quiet, but the owner of that bike doesn't mind if we do a video on it. We've already talked about it. So anyway. All right, Leland Berg, thank you very much for that, sir. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it great a bit. Any experience with NOS opinions? Oh, yeah, man. I live and breathe nitrous. I think when I came out of my mother's womb, that's what they put on my face. It's got to be tuned right. A tuner has to know what they're doing. You got to know what you're doing with ignition timing. You got to know that fuel delivery is right. Most nitro systems that get put on motorcycles are, in fact, they're dry systems. So you got to be really careful with those. I've developed quite a few wet systems and done several combinations of wet systems, which is really better than a dry system because you need multiple injectors or two-stage ECM and all that type of stuff. So yeah, familiar with that. If you're interested, shoot me a message. I might be able to help you out. Adjustable push rods, can you preset to original solid push rod links? I would always adjust them. Tisa, I would definitely recommend that. Always adjust. Ever burn stainless exhaust? Never have. Actually, never heard of that, Owen. I promise I will look at that. Ray, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. All right. Jim Laurie, my friend, you are welcome. What kind of gas should I put in my Harley 883? 93 octane non-ethanol if you can get it. More than likely, it'll be 91 octane non-ethanol wherever you are located. Gentlemen, it is 3:57. How's that for marathon question and answering? 2 more questions, and I'm done. All right, guys, give me 2 more questions, and I'm shutting it down at 4 o'clock. And I'm going to sit here and wait for 2 more questions. While I'm waiting for those questions to come up, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. You guys are helping me build just a wonderful community here, and I appreciate everything you do. Some of you guys have been hanging out here with me for 2 hours. All right, that's absolutely awesome. I've got to get off here. I'm going to go work on some motorcycles for a little while. Then I'm going to go home and actually rest, and we're going to hammer back down for next week. Let's see. Making it an Ironman day. No thanks. I haven't been training all year. All right, let's see. I'm waiting just one question. Michael Jones. No, man. Can you explain the oiling system? No. Not with 2 minutes left. You pour it in, it flows around, and squirts it out. Sometimes out of the breather, sometimes out of the exhaust, if you're not lucky. Other than that, I'm done, man. All right, my throat is killing me, boys. Okay. 2 great questions right there, and that's the last question, guys. These are the last 2 questions, and I see them. Again, thank you so much. All right. The first question is, doing a stage 2, 19107, should I change lifter cuffs? I'm told those bolts are prone to break. Chad, that's a very, very good question, sir. Yes, those bolts are prone to break. Yes, change the lifter cuffs. Hands down, change them. A mechanic should be able to heat those bolts. Use an inductive heater. That's how I do it. Doesn't damage the case, doesn't cause any problems. If you heat those bolts enough, those bolts should come out. Do not refrain from changing the lifter cuffs for the sake of possibly breaking a bolt. A machine shop could fix that bolt. It's worth it. Yes, change the lifter cuffs. All right. What's your preference on model and motor build for used bike-wise? I have to say, the 2006 A motors, the 2006 FL and Dyna engines, I do fewer repairs on 2006 model Harley Davidsons than any other year model that I've seen. All right, and this goes back for years and years and years. The transmissions were good. The compensators were good. The one-piece throttle body was good. Yes, they still had the spring-loaded tensioners, but they were great, great, great year models. I saw less wiring problems. And I don't think it's coincidence, guys. 2006 is a great, great, great year to start with. If I had to build myself the ultimate, what I would say, play, red light to red light, kind of go fast bike, not just going completely nuts, I would probably take an FXR or Dyna, twin cam, 4-inch bore, 4-inch stroke, 4 1/8 bore, 337, 341 gear with a deep overdrive 6, and that would be a very, very, very fun motorcycle. If I were building a touring bike, I would probably build myself a 117, 10-to-1 compression ratio. I don't care about the dyno numbers. I want power when I want it, and it's going to live. It's going to last. Okay. All right, guys. That's it for me. Yo, my brain looks like Swiss cheese right now. For those that mentioned it, there's Iron Man. There's 3T Sports. I am going to ask a couple of favors before I sign off. It's 401. So as you guys know, when I edit these videos and I do things like this means I still have to turn wrenches and work in the shop. So a lot of times I find myself editing videos or working in the shop at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. If you guys need parts, you don't know it. A lot of people don't know it. We are a distributor for just about every single company in the motorcycle business. If you need to order parts, we'd appreciate it if you give us a call, give us a shot. We can get you just about anything. Our old website at protwin.com is still up and still running. Then our website at baxtersgarage.com, we're in the process of building that one. We've only got a handful of parts on it. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be loading more parts on it, more engine kits or spec kits and stuff like that on there. But if you guys want to check out the website, it tells the story of Skunk Works and kind of what that program's about. And we're going to be building on that over the coming weeks. And anyway, but regardless, we're a phone call or an email away. Pete at protwin.com, Kevin at protwin.com. If you guys need something, we'd appreciate it if you give us a shot in considering ordering your parts from us. And guys, James Lanning, thank you for joining, sir. Just joined at membership level mechanic. All right. I probably will not do another live until after the holidays. I don't care what holiday you support, if it's Christmas, if it's Hanukkah, if it's Kwanzaa, or if you choose just to celebrate it at home in your own way. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, no question. A very safe and happy New Year. It's been an interesting year for sure, but you guys are awesome. You've built an absolutely fantastic community out there. And thank you for being a part of all this. I'm not sure what videos I'll be loading over the next few weeks. I've got a ton of work I got to get done. And quite honestly, guys, my crew and we need a break. So, yeah, I'll be tinkering and turning wrenches. You know, I can't do that. I can't go too long without turning wrenches. But we'll probably be shutting the shop down. We're going to shut the shop down from the week from Christmas to New Year's. Give these guys a break and much needed rest. So everyone, again, thank you. I appreciate you so much. The shares, the likes, the subscriptions, the merchandise you've ordered, the shirts, the coffee mugs, the all of that. It's you make this rewarding and you make this worth it. And I thank you very much. Guys, I'm signing off. Everyone, thank you. Take care of yourselves and each other. Y'all have a good one.